It's been a slow off-season in tennis, but a question that's been arising and a question that I've been thinking about and something that I kind of wanted to create a video about was who is going to be the player to challenge Alcaraz and Sinner? We all know it's the Alcaraz and Sinner era, and this year has just proved it and put the exclamation point on it. But who is going to be the player to actually challenge them? And even is that player even a professional at the moment? I'm going to give you my thoughts and I'm going to give you a few players who I think will challenge. And at the end, I'm going to give you the player who I generally think has the biggest chance to challenge these two. Make sure you leave a like, comment and subscribe if you do like this video, but let me get straight into this. The last 8 Grand Slams have gone to Sinner and Alcaraz, and the last 3 Grand Slam finals have been between Sinner and Alcaraz in the final. That is quite interesting because it shows a level of dominance which we haven't seen in a while, and especially since we thought this era was going to be the Sinner-Alcaraz era, and it's kind of lived up to it. Zverev made the final in the Australian Open, and he had a really good run in the Australian Open. If you have a look back, I go back to 2024 when these lot were a bit younger, you can have a look at the US Open final. Fritz got to that final, Wimbledon final, Djokovic got to that Wimbledon final, the French Open final, Zverev got to that, and you can have a look at the Australian Open final. It's all a bit different and it's all a bit difficult to try and understand because none of us know who's going to be the next big player, but we all are going to presume that there is going to eventually be another big player to come around. Let me give you one of the people who I think is going to come around and who I think is going to probably be at the forefront of tennis and hopefully challenge. Number 1 is Joao Fonseca. In my opinion, I think Joao Fonseca has the tools to compete with Sinner and Alcaraz. The reason why I say Joao Fonseca is because not just because of his skill level, his power is so important to his game, and power is one of the keys to beat Alcaraz and Sinner. He hasn't really beat them, and I think that's one of the big things he needs to do. He's so young in this game, but he can hit that forehand with such power, which is generally beyond belief, which is one of the key reasons why I think Joao Fonseca is going to be at the forefront of tennis, his age and his power. And I think he's got a huge chance to really try and topple this duopoly. Another player who I think can try and challenge these two, and he's from the UK, Jack Draper. I think one of the biggest concerns of Draper is just fitness. I think fitness for him is 9/10 of the law. He needs to be fit majority of the time, but he's not, and that's his big issue. He gets so many injuries, he has a lot of niggles, and I think that is his biggest Achilles heel for him to challenge this kind of era between Alcaraz and Sinner. We saw earlier this year he won Indian Wells and he beat Carlos Alcaraz en route to beating and winning Indian Wells, which is a huge sign of his step and his faith in his game. But just like clockwork, he happens to get injured as well towards the end of this year, and it kind of just derails his whole momentum that he's been building. The key for Jack Draper is he's got the tools. He's a lefty, he's huge serve, big forehand. He just needs to try and gain momentum and gain minutes under his belt without being injured. I think Fonseca and Draper are 2 players which have huge chances and tools to beat Sinner and Alcaraz. I'm going to throw a wild card in for this one. I'm going to say Cobolli. Cobolli really impressed me during his Wimbledon run this year, and I think he's got an interesting game. He's very young, and I think the way he can hit the ball, as I say, speed is one of the big things which a lot of players struggle with when it comes to Alcaraz and Sinner. But I think Cobolli, if he can put 2026 into a run or momentum, that 2027 could be his year to challenge, I think that is more likely than we can see. I think Wimbledon was a huge indicator that he is going to grow and he is going to be a dangerous player in the sport. But I think he needs to use 2026 as a building platform for him to build something big in 2027. I think Cobolli has the tools, and I think he can truly try and topple Alcaraz and Sinner. This kind of video has taken like the youngsters, but there's 3 players which you can all include, and I think it's going to be interesting. Djokovic can obviously beat these guys on any given day. In a slam, maybe not. Alexander Zverev, he's made 2 finals in the last 2 years, and it's just been gut-wrenching to watch him lose. And I think he's just found it very difficult to compete with them. One guy who I think has a chance, and you might not agree with me, Daniil Medvedev. I think Medvedev's game is just weird, and I think he is the type of player that can beat Alcaraz and Sinner in a 5-set match on any given day. You have a look at the run he had in 2024 in the Australian Open where he lost to Sinner. He was 2 sets to love up, albeit that was Sinner's very first time to win a Grand Slam. He can get in those positions, and I think he might have a run in him. One more run in the Slam that he can topple these 2. Look, there's numerous names and numerous people that can also... Musetti, Fritz might have a chance. Ben Shelton has a huge game. I think all these players have arguments to even challenge Alcaraz and Sinner. especially Ben Shelton. I think Ben Shelton's a unique player in which he has tools. He doesn't have the whole toolbox, but he's got tools, and the tools which he has right now are super sharp, but he needs to get more tools into his toolbox, if that makes any sense, or if that metaphor even makes any sense. He's got a huge serve. His tactics are just a bit interesting at the moment, that he kind of is stuck in two minds and he doesn't know when to commit and when not to commit. Listen, at the end of the day, it's Alcaraz and Sinner's era at the moment, but one of these guys is surely going to take that step and take that step forward. For all we know, the guy who's going to be the trio and the guy to disrupt this, he might not even be playing professional tennis at the moment. That's for all we know. But these are a few players who I think can challenge Alcaraz and Sinner. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Leave who you think is going to challenge if you do in 2026. But yeah, I've left a few players. Cobolli might be an interesting one for you guys, but I'm telling you, let him build 2026 and 2027. I think he can truly do something special. But in my opinion, I think Fonseca is the man to hold your houses on. And I think this year he could try and do something to disrupt these two. Leave your thoughts in the comments. As always, peace.